You're listening to the Bulldog Hour, getting you inside the Wilson football program with weekly game previews, recaps, highlights, and interviews. Now, here are your hosts, Joe Mays and Justin Raffauf.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Bulldog Hour. I am one of your hosts, Joe Mays, and here with me, as always, is my co-host, Justin Raffauf.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Hard to believe we have reached September.
Yes, September 1st, official start of fall, at least meteorologically speaking. And you know, Justin, I believe in the meteorologists, so September 1st is fall.
You do. We've actually had that discussion.
We've had this discussion many a times. So, the burr months are the best, and here we are, the final 4 months of the year. But it means we're smack dab at the early portion of the Wilson football schedule. And Justin, we've got another victory to talk about.
Yeah, it's always
these shows are much more fun.
We love when we can have interviews for you.
That's right, we do.
And these shows are always much more fun. Yeah, so we'll do as many of these shows as we
100%.
We'll sign up for these all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are going to recap the victory over Plymouth-Whitemarsh. The first ever meeting between the Colonials and the Bulldogs did go Wilson's way. Friday evening, home opener youth night at Instashine Car Wash Field at John Gursky Stadium. 21-7 was the final of that game, and we will recap and dissect, play some interviews, talk about statistics, give away our player of the week, and it should be a very, very good time. All right, but first off, we want to make sure we thank our sponsors of the program and everything we do here at the Bulldog Hour, including the website, bulldoghour.com. Thank you, as always, to my dad, Bill, at May's Sandwich Shop, as well as White Star Tours for supporting the show this season, Season 10 of the Bulldog Hour. Appreciate their support and commitment to this show. And they're not alone. Besides May's Sandwich Shop and White Star Tours, we'd also like to thank the Miller family and our two anonymous donors. And there are a variety of ways you can help us here at the show. Obviously, sponsorships are great. In-kind donations are always appreciated as well. Also something, Justin, I don't have a slide for anymore, but we can mention it. It's your favorite.
Yeah, like and share. Yeah, like we like hearing feedback. We like spreading the show to those that might be interested. So let people know and let us know that you like it.
We also would like everyone to, we love the people that watch live. That's great. I love having interaction. If anyone leaves a comment, I try to see it. I don't always get to it. Try to acknowledge the comments that may pop up, but also make sure you subscribe or follow across social media, especially on YouTube, Wilson Bulldogs Football, Facebook, Twitter X, Instagram, Wilson Bulldogs Football, Bulldog Hour, Coach Joe Mays. Find us across everything. At Mr_Raffauf is Justin on Twitter X. So make sure you head there. And YouTube is definitely a place you want to go. It's the main platform we present this show on. So check out youtube.com/Wilson Bulldogs Football. I don't have a live show slide again because I didn't get to talk to Justin yet about the schedule next week. Hoping to do it the normal time on Sunday. It could get shifted. Justin and I got to talk about our schedule. But there will be a show. I know it was up in the air when we'd be doing it this week, Justin, because we had a fantasy draft that finished like an hour and a half ago. We weren't sure the timing of that.
My wife was stunned
that you were home
so quick,
ready to go. Yeah, so we have a lot of stuff going on this time of year, and we always make sure we try to get a show. And everyone, since we went weekly, which has now probably been at least 7 years, I think, or so.
I am the wrong person.
We used to only do like one a month.
You tell me when to be here, and I do my best to be here.
Well, so there will be a show next week. I'm hoping it'll be this time on Sunday, but there's a lot of stuff going on. So if that changes, we'll let everyone know. The game this coming week for week 3 across Pennsylvania high school football is going to be on Friday, September 6th. And we got a long drive. It's another road game, Justin. We're all the way up at Nazareth Area High School to play the Blue Eagles. And obviously we will do a preview of that game after we recap Wilson's win against Plymouth-Whitemarsh. But that one is what is on deck for the Bulldogs. Justin, can you remember the last time the Wilson football team started 2-0? It's been a little bit.
So I can, but only because you refreshed my memory.
I wasn't gonna spoil that. I was gonna let you wow everyone.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. See, being the nice guy I am, I'll throw the credit back to you. 2019, correct?
Yeah, I believe it was 2019 the last time the Wilson football team sat at 2-0. Obviously, last year at this time they were 0-2. People were disappointed, and obviously the coaches and the players were disappointed after that overtime loss to Central Dauphin. Things changed a bit there, and they were able to go on a bit of a winning streak. And we're pretty happy extending both streaks, being in contention for a section championship up to the last week. Things are different this year. First time since, I believe, 2019, the Bulldogs sit at 2-0 after 2 weeks. Coincidentally, also the last time we hosted an alumni game was 2019. Maybe there's some kind of aura or connection there, celebrating a milestone with Wilson football. So the 80th Wilson football season celebration starts with the alumni game, which is going to be less than 2 weeks away now.
Yeah.
We're at 13 days.
The countdown is on.
Yeah, it's definitely been on. It's been on for a long time for me. And we're
4 years.
we're welcoming back over 50 alumni players and coaches to Insta-Shine Car Wash Field at John Gursky Stadium for a 6 p.m. kickoff on Saturday, September 14th. That is the day after Wilson's game at Reading High, which is to be played at Albright. It is Team Doms versus Slemmer Squad again, second time. Slemmer Squad got the better of Team Doms 5 years ago. So I know Coach Doms is out to try to even the score with Jerry Slemmer's squad. The teams are a little bit different. We don't get the same guys to play each time. It's all, who to volunteer their bodies to go through that and pay the registration fee to make a little donation to the football program and help us pay to set up the game. So we are looking forward to that very much so, and it's coming quickly. A lot of the finalizations are being done. I'm picking up game shirts this week, and I have to start sorting those. We just finalized the menu for the post-game reception for returning alumni players and coaches, and it's going to be a lot of fun. We're very much looking forward to that. And we got a nice turnout again. And I had thrown up this roster a few weeks ago, put it up there again. We hope everyone will be able to join us. Admission is free. There will be some concessions in Wilson football apparel, and the youth are joining us. So that's the plan. We want to try to encourage as many Van Reed and Lincoln Park players and cheerleaders to come out and do the same thing that they did last night at the, or not last night, 2 nights ago, at the youth night game where they formed the tunnel and welcomed the current squad onto the field. We'd like to do that for the alumni. I thought that would be a cool addition to the game this time around. Hadn't done that before, and should be a lot of fun. So again, that's Saturday, September 14th, kickoff at 6 o'clock, but try to be there by 5:30. That's when they'll start announcements, and we'll get things rolling. We'll have the national anthem, trying to put together an alumni pep band. So really try to evoke that Friday Night Lights feel and give the alumni players something exciting to play for. And some of our current coaches, Ernie Walber, Jerry Palm, and Chad Henney, are assisting Coach Doms. And Jerry Slemmer will be joined by his brother Harold and Steve Yeager as well on the sideline for Slemmer Squad. So it should be a lot of fun. All right, Justin, let's dive into this Plymouth-Whitemarsh game and talk about your 2-0 Wilson football team. I know a lot of people weren't quite sure what to expect, both from Plymouth-Whitemarsh, because we've never seen them play a Wilson football team, and what to expect from the Wilson team. Because, yeah, sure, they won in week 1, Saturday at Cheltenham, but it was a weird game. It felt like Wilson maybe should have been up by a few more scores, kind of let them hang around. It was hot and humid, and people were cramping from both teams, left and right. Just felt like that Wilson couldn't put it away. Wasn't playing a complete game. Almost the exact opposite probably could be said about Friday night. I think everyone, from the coaches and the team to the community watching, were pleasantly, I don't know, surprised, but like very pleased with the way things went, because it was a giant unknown. Right.
Yeah. And honestly, I know most people did not know a whole lot about Plymouth-Whitemarsh, but I know the team, the coaches and stuff, and the team knew that was a very good team that they were going up against. I believe 9-2 last year, really good record. Returned a lot from that team, so they're experienced. They had some big guys. They have some really good athletes, and it was a tall task. And you saw us kind of like slug it out early, but I thought, I liked what I saw from the defense in terms of getting in there and being physical and making the tackles and doing good things there. And the offense, again, it was tough because of just what Plymouth-Whitemarsh is able to do on defense. Again, being physical and all those things. But I thought the offense got their footing and then started to be able to do things effectively against a really good team that shut out their opponent last week. I think and again, that's a bit of an unknown because I know nothing about like Upper Marion, in terms of I know their football field, but I do not know their football team.
Right.
But when you look at it, that team that went 9-2 last year, returned a bunch, ran for over 400 yards, and we talked about this last week, over 400 yards on 40 carries. So they were averaging over 10 yards a carry on 40 carries. Like, that's absurd. Like, I don't know that I've ever seen that. You see that more than 10 yards. Like, that happens in high school. I don't want to say all the time, but that's a regular occurrence because you'll have a kid break a couple and you get those big runs, and there you go. But to do that on 40 carries is amazing. Mm-hmm. And yet, and we'll talk about it later, we held them well below that number.
Yeah.
And it was a big step in the right direction, I feel like. And again, we talked about it after the first week, some of the guys stepping up and playing into those roles. We saw it again this week. Some guys who are getting their chances and are stepping into those roles and doing well and making big plays. And that's what it's going to take all season. You can't let week 2 be the best you play. You need to keep building on that. But I thought you want to get better from week 1 to week 2. And watching that game, it would be really hard to find an area where we didn't get better from week 1 to week 2.
Yeah, it was a strong overall, all-around performance. Offense took some time to get going and moving, but then got the job done.
Right, and I know that's tough to say because we scored fewer points than we did the week before, but it's all relative, and that, I don't know. Those were, and I know the offense only scored two touchdowns, but
right.
Those are well-earned touchdowns.
Well, playing a better opponent, better team all around. Cheltenham had some flashy parts, but wasn't completely put together well enough to test them across the board. Certain areas for sure.
Absolutely.
But all 3 phases, Plymouth-Whitemarsh felt like the better team, better opponent to date. And Wilson, by and large, I thought played really well in nearly every facet. All 3 phases they won. Maybe struggled a little bit. Special teams, we saw the block punt there in the second half. Have to clean that up. But offense got the job done, and defense was spectacular. There was a little bit of confusion in the middle end of fourth quarter.
Yeah, one play.
That Wilson ended up getting beat and giving up the touchdown. But other than that, there were a few decent-sized plays, but nothing that was back-breaking, nothing like we saw at at Cheltenham the other week where we were shutting them down and then had miscommunication or a mistake on coverage and gave up big plays to convert on third down or touchdowns. So that wasn't the case this week. So very, very strong showing overall. Obviously, Youth Night, I have my pictures rotating through so you can see the players running onto the field through the player and cheerleader tunnel. So super, super happy with the way that game went. So let's take a look at our statistics now and dive into the game more in depth. All right. Okay, so team statistics we're talking about here. You said it on Friday night, Justin, kind of an almost like an old school type of high school football game. Not a lot of yardage or points, fairly modest, 21-7 was the final favor of the Bulldogs. First downs, Wilson actually only ended up with 10 to Plymouth-Whitemarsh's 14. And net yard rushing, this was the big one, Justin, because you mentioned Plymouth-Whitemarsh averaged over 10 yards a carry in their Week 1 victory over Upper Merion. They rushed the ball 40 times for over 410 yards. This week they rushed 30 times, but only netted 93. So the Wilson defense, especially that defensive front, really limited what the Colonials could do. 3.1 yards a carry isn't too bad, but under 100 yards total is fantastic.
Without knowing their schedule, it's impossible to really do. I would be willing to bet that, like, honestly, they have 8 more remaining games. I would say they probably go over 100 yards rushing in at least 7 of those 8 games and probably 8 of those 8. You know what I mean? Like, it's just that team is going to rush for more than 100 yards a lot, and we held them under 100 yards. That's really good.
Yeah, it was actually excellent. So I honestly knew the defense had played well. I didn't realize they had held them to under 100 yards.
Right,
When you handed me the stat sheet when we were getting ready to do the interviews, I was pleasantly surprised that was the case. And I know once we relayed it to the players, they were very excited as well. Wilson ended up net rushing over 100, 132, a little bit higher average per rush at 3.4. Did not break 100 yards passing, though. Ended up just with 47 for the Bulldogs on 7 of 13. Plymouth-Whitemarsh, the team not known for passing, ends up with over 100. Playing from behind will sometimes force that to happen. They get 125 on 14 completions on 28 attempts. And, of course, they had that one interception that Maddox Gruber stepped in front of and returned for a touchdown, which I don't want to say sealed it because it was still, midway third, end of third?
I think it was like towards the end of the third.
End of the third quarter.
First drive took up almost like 2/3 of the third.
It was excellent. That's one way to make sure you're going to come out on top at the time of possession. And Wilson started really strong in third quarter with that. So Maddox Gruber gets the pick 6 and puts Wilson up 21-0 in the second half. So total offense, Plymouth-Whitemarsh actually had more, 218 to 179, ran just a few more plays, 58 to 52. Wilson was penalized more, 7 times for 45 yards, 4 for 35 for the Colonials. And possession time, really close, pretty even. Plymouth-Whitemarsh dominated possession in the first quarter by a lot, but Wilson edged them out in the second, third, and fourth. And both teams struggled a bit on third downs in this game, 3 of 14 for PW, 2 of 12 for Wilson. But both teams actually had more success on fourth down. Plymouth-Whitemarsh converted 50%, 3 of 6, and Wilson was actually over 50% at 4 of 6. And a few of those plays helped decide scoring drives for Wilson. So absolutely great execution when it really, really mattered. Wilson did score both times they were in the red zone. So they were able to sustain drives and finish drives. Did not give up a sack. Maddox Gruber was not sacked. He was certainly pressured, and his athleticism allowed him to get out of it, but he was never pulled down behind the line of scrimmage. Wilson's credited with 2 sacks on the night. But yeah, all around, really, really great team win. Maddox was the leading rusher, tied with Corell Akings. Both of them rushed for 57 yards. And Corell did get in the end zone for another touchdown. Maddox was 6 of 12, passing for 40 yards. And the score, which went to Jaden Carpenter, his first varsity touchdown. So congratulations to him. He finished with 2 catches for 29 yards. That was a great play, too. Yeah, because he caught it around the 10, I want to say.
Right around the 10, coming across the middle and turned it up. And
loaded
there were
his shoulder.
Some defenders waiting.
Yep.
And he made sure he got in the end zone, which was awesome.
Yep. So Corell Akings also attempted a pass, a throwback to Maddox Gruber, which he ended up catching and converting on, I believe that was a fourth down play.
It was fourth down.
And then
because,
he scored.
Right.
The Carpenter touchdown was
I couldn't see if Maddox had caught it. And you're like, oh, he absolutely
caught it. No, he
caught
definitely caught it.
But then they had the measure, and we got the first down.
I wasn't sure if he had gotten the first down. He definitely had caught the ball, though. So
I only knew that he got it even on the measurement because none of the Plymouth-Whitemarsh players that were right there started jumping up and down or anything. Like I was like, oh, that's good for us.
So Corell had 2 catches. Didn't actually end up gaining any yards overall. Maddox had the catch for 7 yards. Monty Greer had a catch for 6, and Mike Glover had a catch for 5. So not very active in the air. Got things done on the ground when necessary. Defensively speaking, this is where there are some standouts here. Once again, excellent defensive game plan all around. You'll hear the players talk about that. Christo Hunsaker had the second most tackles this week. We heard his name, and he was the Tobias Frog coach's MVP on defense last week. He ends up with 8 total tackles, 1.5 for loss. Chase Herb, who actually missed time in the game, just cramping up, 6 tackles from his safety spot. Cam Zulinger, again, 2 tackles for loss. Chase Herb also had a pass breakup. Mel Gaston made his moments count.
Yes,
He ended up with three tackles, 2 breakups.
And at a big time, he really came through and got some heavy pressure on the quarterback.
Yeah, never officially
awesome.
took him down for a loss or a sack, but he was credited with pass breakups because each time he forced the quarterback to make an errant throw.
Right, which is...
Just
I don't want to say it's just as good, but it is.
Close.
It is, right?
Close.
Like, it's as close as you can get. And at a huge time in the game.
You're not losing the yardage, but you're disallowing the pass and forcing a change in downs.
So, yep.
Monty Greer had 3 tackles. Ethan Harding, before he left with an injury, had 2 tackles, including 1 for loss on a sack. Jesse Etchberger contributed the other Wilson sack. But it's one player jumping out here that we didn't even get to mention yet. But I think, Justin, he's going to be our player of the week for his efforts. And we're also going to get to hear him when we play the player interviews here shortly. So our player of the week for Game 2, home opener youth night versus Plymouth-Whitemarsh, is going to have to be on the defensive side just for the way he performed. He was everywhere. And it's going to be sophomore linebacker E.J. Brownback. What a game from him. I feel like Mr. Venino was saying his name every other play. He was all over the place. And there was a moment, and it's only stood out to me because over the summer for our preseason interviews with senior players, we heard, was it Brady Klein said he would like to set the program record for tackles in a game. Okay. I think that was Brady that said that to us.
I don't remember. I remember it being said, but I don't remember.
Now, EJ did not set the new record, but it's the closest I've seen anyone get in a while. You don't often see double-digit tackles
what is the
in
record?
a game. I believe it's like 16.
Okay.
It's Ike Schonauer has the record. Unfortunately, it was in the playoff loss, his last game of his Wilson career against CD East in the playoffs in 2015. But he had like 16 or something ridiculous. Honestly, it could even be higher. It's in the mid to late teens of total tackles. But EJ Brownback against Plymouth-Whitemarsh contributed 10.5 tackles, 4.5 for loss. That's pretty good. I don't know what the single game record is for tackles for loss from a player. I have to reference the stats book for that, and honestly, I don't even know if single game tackles for loss is one that's in the book. But that's got to be up there, unless you're and that's without any sacks. So he didn't bring down the quarterback at all. That's all on tackles on the running backs.
Right. And they had some speed.
They did.
They had some speed getting to that edge. But man, yeah, he was flying around.
He was constantly. The one that stands out to me, and I actually think if you're watching the show and you see the pictures I have up of the Player of the Week graphic, the one where he's jumping up and down after just celebrating, I believe that was on the screen they attempted.
Yes.
And because they had blockers set up, I was like, oh, this might not be good. All of a sudden, EJ just slices through all of them and tackles the guy, I believe, for a loss. Yeah. I thought they were going to get positive yardage on that play because it looked like they had it set up, but EJ was too quick. It sneaked right by the lineman and made a tackle in the backfield. It was an excellent play in the first half, and what a phenomenal game from him all around. Just another stellar defensive effort. Brownback and Hunsaker combining for 18.5 total tackles, 6 tackles for loss. So very strong on the inside, looking good. Brady Klein, not credited with a lot in the game, but he was there often, flying around, making plays, making things happen. Same thing with Ethan Harding. We mentioned his name. I know he missed some time in the second half with an injury, but linebackers kind of going more like throwback 4-4 style, having 4 linebackers out there kind of felt nice. I like seeing that. Yeah. Hopefully that's part of the game plan against heavy rush teams in the season going forward, because obviously right now it seems to be a Wilson strength.
Yeah, and it is one of those where it was hard to gauge what we were going to get out of that first week because I knew the style of team we were playing is just so vastly different. But I did have a good feeling, but it's just I wasn't sure how it was going to go. But yeah, I was really pleased with how guys across the board stepped up and made plays and and adapted on the fly. Like, and I talk about this when I'm watching baseball all the time. It's not always like how many, sometimes it's when, right? And so like in the biggest moments, Wilson made the biggest plays.
Yeah.
And that says a lot. It says a lot. And it's not always the same guys. It's a bunch of different guys, and you make a lot of those plays, the plays that matter. Well, I guess they end up mattering because you make them, right? Like that's how that works. So, hopefully that's a trend that continues for not just a few weeks, but maybe a couple months.
Yeah. Defensive game plan probably going to be different this week.
Yeah, I would.
I don't think they're going to be rolling 4 linebackers after that often against Nazareth Area.
That would be a bit of a surprise.
Well, yeah, we'll get to that. But we do want to congratulate E.J. Brownback on an excellent game. Excellent game from the defense. Coach Wolber and his fellow defensive coaches did an excellent job prepping these guys. And, well, you're going to hear them talk about the game plan. Let's find out how the players prepared for the Plymouth-Whitemarsh game. We talked to 4 more Wilson football players after the win versus